Welcome to the SciFirst MovieTalk episode. So in this episode, we start a new chapter in the Wizarding World created by J.K. Rowling with the 2016 fantasy adventure Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the first movie in the now expanded Fantastic Beasts arm of the Wizarding World franchise, first brought to life and shown to us through the movies of the Harry Potter franchise as based on the literary works of J.K. Rowling herself, making this the 9th movie in the overall Wizarding World series. Directed once again by David Yates, who follows on from directing the last 4 movies in the Harry Potter series, this movie brings us back once more to the fantastic and mesmerising world of the Wizarding World, in fact. This time bringing us a new story set before the events of the Harry Potter series. In fact, set within its own kind of framework and characters against the backdrop of 1926's New York, but still set within the same universe, building on the lore and the elements we had come to understand about this fantastical world so far. Unlike the movies in the Harry Potter series, the movie isn't based on a book. Moreover, it is a direct screenplay treatment written by Rowling, self-intended for the big screen, in order to kind of expand and cultivate and probably profit further stories following the Harry Potter series, which officially concluded at the time with the 7th book and the 7th and 8th movies in the series, The Deathly Hallows. This time around, we follow Newt Scamander, if I've said that right, as played by Eddie Redmayne, a magic zoologist travelling to America to further his exploration with magical creatures. Following a chance meeting with a no-mag, or muggle, to us UKs, to us Brits if you like, well, non-magic folk in any respect, named Jacob Kowalski, as played by Dan Fogler, their briefcases inadvertently get swapped. Only thing is, Newt's is like a portable zoo in a box, and an unsuspecting Jacob lets loose some of the animals from Newt's collection, causing a number of chaotic events within the city of New York. This doesn't go down too well with an agent of the Magical Congress of the United States, with whom Newt also meets along the way, Tina Goldstein, as played by Katherine Waterston, who promptly proceeds to apprehend Newt and intent on handing him over to the authorities, you know. Only thing is, there are bigger and bigger things afoot in New York at the time, with a seemingly unstoppable force tearing down the city. And soon it becomes apparent that Newt, Jacob, Tina, and indeed Queenie, Tina's sister, as played by Alison Sudol, have got themselves embroiled in something much larger and far more reaching than at first it would seem. So, being a fan of the original Harry Potter movies, I was excited to see how they would continue this series without having kind of a story based on one of Rowling's books. More so an adventure crafted within the universe with a distinct vision to be made directly into a film, and not as a consequence of an adaptation as per previous movies in the series. Certainly an intriguing concept from the very beginning, in fact, and once that kind of promised to take us back into the fantastically vibrant and exuberant Wizarding world within new cast, now not relying on any of the primary Harry Potter kind of backstories, you know. Indeed, after the series relied so much on a specific set of characters, you know, namely Harry, Ron, and Hermione, as we had kind of become just so accustomed to their antics and resilient attitude, it was going to be interesting to see just how far and how fair, you know, it would seem and fair, you know, with a new incumbent cast and series of stories that didn't have the same kind of backing or phenomenal following as the books did for the Harry Potter franchise. Now, I'm not going to say that this film reaches the dizzying heights of the Potter franchise in its prime, you know, but it certainly does an excellent job of kind of injecting us once more back into this wondering world. Now, I'm not going to say that this film kind of reaches the dizzying heights of the Potter franchise at its prime, you know, at its heights, but it certainly does an excellent job at it injecting us once more back into this wondrous and immersive world, yet bringing some fresh new twists and faces, you know, and an amazing array and mixture of comedy, creatures, magic, and pure fantasy that more than proved that the series could continue on its own steam, and that there were many more stories and adventures still yet to be had. I think it was kind of a great way to kind of immerse us once again into the universe for the initiated, building on and kind of complementing on a lot of what we already knew, but also as a great opportunity for newcomers to the franchise. There is no real need to have watched or even understood the Potter franchise for this movie, or in some cases even liked it. Everything is kind of re-explained in an excellent way without dumbing it down or reiterating kind of excessively through the use of, this new environment to us all. We are now all in awe, of this new American setting. That in itself is a completely different world from what we've seen before, and the film makes absolutely fantastic use of this contrasting kind of backdrop, bringing something very familiar, yet decidedly fresh at the same time. Serving up, the Wizarding world with very much a different flavour to what we had seen previously within the Potter franchise. It has an amazing cast who do bring kind of this distinct energy to the proceedings, which is a sheer delight to watch unfold. With some amazing chemistry, especially between Redmayne and Fogler, who really make us believe in their characters. Fogler, in fact, absolutely steals the show as Jacob for me, Quite ingenious take to kind of involve a wider audience, having a muggle show us the way. Even though we are now 9 films in, the film still manages to bring its own brand of wonder and intrigue, given that we have seen everything kind of anew and afresh through the eyes of wondrous eyes of somebody who had never kind of seen the Wizarding world before. And in that, it remains an absolute complete spectacle. Starting off in a different time period with a more kind of retro, classic feel. Almost a period piece in itself. It quickly opens up into something with a much wider scope and inspiration. Even bedazzling at times. It's a fantastic adventure that makes the most of both the Muggle and Wizarding worlds in which it exists. With such an amazing charm, it is hard not to be drawn in. Absolutely eccentric at times and delightfully playful with its premise. I absolutely love the way that for as much as it's character driven in most respects, it makes everything it does about the creatures it presents. Almost like a magical creature nature documentary. And Newt has such a love and a passion for his work and those creatures he saves. It's hard not to get caught up in the emotion of it all at times. Giving the film a fantastic energy and focal point, which I think really works well. I also love the American versus Englishisms, for want of a better word. There was some brilliant plays on language, such as Muggle versus Nomad, of course. As we would have chips versus chips, and tomatoes versus tomatoes. Covering a number of real-world analogies, right up to the more kind of systematic, more bureaucratic systems of magical control used by the Magical Congress of the United States. Including the acronyms, Americans love their acronyms, which indeed are well loved, in American legislation. Speaking from personal experience with my understanding of both EU and American pharmaceutical law, I'm not going to bog you down with that, but they were a great addition and again made great use of this new setting. Especially with the world of Harry Potter being set within the English magical world, being very quaint, very old world style, even though the films technically were set in the modern world, And then in America, we have this hybrid system. Magic folk living amongst the nomads, More integrated and very bureaucratic, with many checks and measures in place to keep the balance. Yet, decidedly feeling quite modern, more streamlined, even with the paperwork. And even though set in the 1920s, there was very much a different vibe going on. And that was distinctly different. Overall, this film brought a great new mix, location and cast of characters to the Wizarding world, which were wonderfully orchestrated together to bring us another fantastical experience set in a whole new world, yet one which was perfectly familiar at the same time. With some fantastic chemistry and, of course, some absolutely amazing creatures, this is a wonderfully enchanting entry into the franchise that makes great use of its alternative setting, having great fun with the concept and context, bringing some old-school adventure to the table. The cinematography, the effects, the storytelling make great use of their surroundings, and although it's clear this movie forms part of a wider story in the main, it still feels like a neatly packaged outing, very self-contained and indeed fantastically satisfying in its own right, leaving on an emotional note indeed, with just a glimmer of the future still yet to come. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Many thanks for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like. Please do hit that subscribe button for more movie reviews, trailer reactions and other movie-related content. Absolutely loved having you here at SciFirst Movie Talk, and definitely love to have you back. Most of all, just thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.